Welcome to Figuring Out Homestead Life with Ginny White and Allison Levine Ziegenhagen.
Hi, Allison.
Hi, Ginny. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Great. Excited.
Yes, I'm excited and scared.
Definitely. Definitely. So, where should we begin?
Do you want to introduce yourself and we'll kind of go from there?
Okay. I'll go first. So, I am Allison Levine Ziegenhagen. I am a homesteader slash farmer in the Southern Finger Lakes region of New York State, Steuben County specifically. I am the owner and manager of Ziegenvine Homestead. I'm sorry. I am the co-owner and manager of Ziegenvine Homestead. Um, and I have been on the homestead for 9 years as of this July 31st. We raise chickens, ducks, turkeys, goats, cows, honeybees, occasionally pigs, and we tap our maple trees. That's who I am. Now, how about you, Ginny?
So I'm Ginny White. I am a Christian, a wife, a homemaker. I do have a real world job in the insurance industry. We live in Southern New Hampshire on a smaller property. It's a little under 3 acres in size. We've been here about 4 years. Right now, we have a couple dogs, a couple cats. We have laying hens, a rooster, and a lizard. And we're just really focusing on, well, what we mostly do is, growing vegetables, and we have some berries and stuff that we grow also.
That is wonderful. So, should we tell people how we know each other?
Sure. Yeah. So you are my husband's uncle's wife. So niece-in-law.
Niece-in-law. And you and I just recently took a very long road trip and hatched this plan for this podcast on that road trip.
Yep. And we just talked about it like maybe what, 3 days ago, 4 days ago.
Yeah,
And,
so today's Thursday and we talked about it Sunday.
yep. And I guess diving in. So
Head first.
yep.
All right.
So
All
good luck
right.
to all the listeners for our first venture.
Yes. So my personal expectations for this podcast is for the listeners to be able to enjoy a conversation between two people, two friends and family, um, and learn about where each of us are in this journey of homesteading. Um, and I really hope people can relate and become inspired and maybe interested in knowing where their food comes from, no matter where they get their food.
Right. Yeah. And I think what I'm hoping is to show, you don't need to be on like 100 acres. You can do some sort of growing your own food, really, no matter where you are. And just to show the our different takes on what we're having to do based on the size of our property and our limitations, and with time, with property size, with all those types of things, experience, and
Definitely.
just be
And
encouraging.
yes. And so you and Luke both have off farm jobs.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know. We're supposed to mention our husband's names, our spouse's names.
Nope, that's fine.
Um,
Yeah. My husband's
so my husband's Randy, and he works off farm 50 plus hours a week. I do work off farm, but I'm only working off farm part time, like 16 hours a week. So it's, the farm is my primary focus for us.
Yes, and I do work. I have a full-time job, but fortunately, probably one of the only good things that came from COVID was I get to work from home now. So that does offer a little bit more flexibility of, going outside, or, doing different things, when I have some downtime or during the day. So that is helpful.
Definitely.
So
Definitely. Ginny, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, let's say, um, was this the life you thought you would have?
well, I'm only 36.
wasn't going to get into specific ages.
Definitely not.
Okay.
But no, I mean, I always enjoyed um, being around animals. And I think when I was little, I wanted to either be, I had big dreams, either wanted to be a marine biologist or a vet. Um, I'm neither of those things, but I did always want to be, do things with animals. I did work at a veterinary clinic for a while. I worked at a pet store when I was in high school. So I have always been drawn to nature and to animals and things like this. I did always want to be a homemaker. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so I always wanted to do home-centric types of activities, but not necessarily what I'm doing now. It's definitely manifested, probably even since we've moved here. I've gained a lot of interests and knowledge, and we do live in a house that's over 200 years old, so it's been a little bit of an inspiration to try to just go back to more old world, living, really.
Yeah, that house is amazing, by the way. It is really an amazing house.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
So what about you? Did you envision the farm life, or?
No way. I was going to be a National Geographic photographer, world renowned National Geographic photographer, traveling the world, going to all these exotic places. Yep, nope. This was not on my plate. However, I am okay. You said your age. So I am 52, and we've been on the farm for 9 years. Randy and I have been together for 13 years. So clearly, before the farm came about, I was not on the projected path of a National Geographic photographer. Do you know how many actual staff photographers there are for Nat Geo?
I know a lot, I'm guessing, or
That's
no.
that's somebody else's podcast, so we don't even need to talk about that. so so back to homesteading. Originally, I was opposed to buying a farm, buying land. I thought it was too much work, and I wasn't wrong. It is a lot of work. I just didn't know how much I would love. I would love this work. Um, I still do photography on the side, and my off-farm job, I work in digitization for a library, so I get to mess around with cameras and stuff. But I would not give up this farm because of the peace that the land brings to me, and I just feel like I'm able to share it with people, and there's a greater presence out there, you know. So, and yes, that would be God. So,
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting what you said. It's hard work, but it's hard in like a different way. It's really it's rewarding work, though. It's hard, but it's very rewarding. Like when you look down and you see, oh, I grew all of this stuff that we're eating on this plate, and or I made all of these things by scratch, and
yeah,
it's easier to go buy it, but it's you don't get the same feeling from it.
definitely. So, speaking of chickens, well, yeah, chickens. Doing
Herb is doing good. He is out with his girls right now, and they're scratching around through the woods that they live in. They're not on a pasture like a lot of chickens. They're in the woods.
nice.
They seem to enjoy it. So they're out now, hopefully eating all the ticks and things that are in the yard and staying out of the garden, hopefully. So yeah, he's kind of like our mascot. Yeah, so he's out hanging out with the girls. He's kind of our little mascot. I really enjoy him. It's fun watching him hang out with the hens and finding them treats, and you know he's a good rooster.
That's great. Good roosters are hard to find.
Yeah. My husband might not agree as much as how he's not as big a fan of my husband as he is of myself, but
You're his person.
yes.
So what else do you want to talk about?
Well, I was wondering, or what does the term homesteading mean to you? Like what that's in our figuring out the homestead life. What does that mean to you? What does the term homesteading mean to you? Because it can kind of mean a lot of different things depending on your place where you're at. It's kind of a broad term.
Yes, it is. It's a very broad term. So I don't know if I mentioned we are on 103 acres in a very rural part of New York State. Um, so Merriam-Webster, the dictionary, defines homestead as a home and adjoining land occupied by a family. Well, that could be lots of places. To me, personally, homesteading is about learning the skills that are so forgotten, like making sourdough bread, kombucha, making bread by hand as opposed to using a bread machine or just buying it from the store, learning how to process chickens, butchering a chicken, kidding goats, making soap. That's what homesteading is to me. It's more about, kind of like you mentioned, going back to the old-fashioned ways of doing things.
Right.
Not relying on stores and other places for everything.
Yeah, and I did find another definition. Well, it was just actually on Wikipedia, but it said homesteading is a lifestyle of self-sufficiency, whether that be agriculture, home food preservation, or small-scale production of textiles, clothing, or craft work for household use or sale. So, I mean, that can really be anything. That could be, oh, I'm making my own soap, or I'm growing my own herbs. It's really, and then I heard another kind of take on it. It's just a mind. It's really a mindset, focusing on being a producer rather than a consumer, and that could be of anything. Just pick one thing and then kind of branch out from there or expand from there.
Yeah, definitely. That all makes sense to me, but I'm living this life. So, yeah. So I don't think we could have a podcast talking about homesteading without mentioning Joel Salatin, who I heard a podcast, and I'm not going to get the quote just perfect, but he broke down homesteading as home where one lives, and steading is you're tending to that home. I mean, you're tending to the needs around that home. It's kind of like homemaking, homesteading, very similar things.
Yeah, and if you look at it that way, I mean, really, we're all homesteaders. you know, whether you're homesteading in an apartment or you're homesteading on 100-acre farm. You
Right,
know,
right. Or,
so,
1,000 acres somewhere out
yeah,
there.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, I mean, anyone can get into this. It's really fun. It's really rewarding, and once you do get going, it's kind of like going down a rabbit hole, and you just find more things you want to learn about. I want to try this, and
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't take, and you're like, okay, this isn't for me, and that's all right. And then you just move on to something else, or you go back to what what resonates with you.
And apartments can grow, tomato plants in pots. They can make their own breads. They can grind their own wheat and that kind of stuff in an apartment. So anybody can definitely be a home.
Yeah, and that's what's great about, I think, the homesteading kind of community, whether that be online or if you know anyone in person or whatever. But we're all in such different places, but we have a lot in common. So
Yes.
it's pretty cool.
Yes. I was just thinking it's kind of interesting that, for a lot of people in a rural area, we're labeling it homesteading, but for them, and for I think for us too, it's just life. It is just how we choose to live our life. So, and it's embracing how we live our life.
Right. Yeah, it becomes your routine, and it becomes your normal, and you don't really realize it's not quote unquote normal per se until you're talking to someone that's not living this way, and they're like, wait, what? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Like,
That was
so
okay. You just mentioned another reason why I wanted to do this podcast. Well, you didn't really mention it, but you did it. And you have such an infectious laugh, and I just
yeah,
love it. And I was like, this has to be on a podcast.
hopefully, yeah, or everyone will be like, oh, that girl won't stop giggling, just shut her up.
No, keep talking. All
But
right. So I don't know what else we need to cover on here for our initial introductory podcast. Can you think of anything?
no, I mean, I guess just if there are any listeners, thank you for listening to us in our introduction. If you have, ideas about topics, we do have some topics that we have, planned episodes for. But if there's anything that you're interested in or any questions or anything, I'm sure there's a way to let us know, and we will try to do our best to cover, whatever everyone is interested in.
That sounds great. And you can find both of us on Instagram. We each have our own Instagrams.
Yep, I am Mrs. White Homemade Life on Instagram.
Yes, and I am Mrs. Ziegenvine Homestead, or our farm has its own page, which is Ziegenvine Homestead. Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram.
All right, and I look forward to the next episode, where I believe we are going to be reviewing our trip to the Homestead Festival that we just got back from.
Yes, in Columbia, Tennessee. That was amazing. I am
Yes.
so glad I got to go.
Yeah. So that will be kind of just a good episode with, all about the Homestead Festival and what you can expect if you go next time, and just our take on everything.
All right. So we need to come up with a way to sign off.
Well, I think for now we'll just say